Hey, what's going on? It's Inventor here, and today I'm here to answer the question of whether or not the Companion Druid is viable in Diablo 4 Season 6. To answer the question directly, is it viable? Yes, absolutely. I made it to Torment 4 with far from perfect gear, and you can see the setup I had going into Torment 4 on the screen right now. My equipment didn't have perfect rolls, wasn't even fully masterworked, and I don't even have any royal gems here. I worked with glyphs that weren't close to being maxed out, and I was actually missing a glyph slot since I don't have enough Paragon points. I haven't even optimized my build yet. But perhaps the most important thing of all is that I deliberately avoided all of the Vessel of Hatred specific content as an added challenge, meaning that I had missing renown rewards, no rune words, and no mercenary. And despite all of this, I was still able to clear Pit 65 with a bit of time to spare. Now I'm going to go over my journey for reaching Torment 4. As a baseline, reaching Torment 1 is pretty simple with this character. For the level 1 to 60 grind, I tried a little bit of everything, but the fastest leveling methods would probably be to run Hell Tides if you're going solo and don't own the expansion, doing the Vessel of Hatred campaign if you've gone pay to win, or get boosted through the pit by another player if you actually have friends. Okay, but in all seriousness, the quickest ways to level are the pit, by a huge margin, running the campaign, second place, or Hell Tides into strongholds otherwise. When that's done, you just need a 750 item power weapon with a bunch of damage rolls on your gear, maxed out resistances and 1000 armor, and maybe even some Paragon points too. The gear and Paragon points I used in Torment 1 got me well into Pit 30. However, after Pit 30, I hit a snag when it came to resistances and damage. To solve the first problem, I adjusted my jewelry for other jewelry that had 750 item power to gain more resistances and the correct rolls. As for damage, I leveled up to get enough Paragon points to grab a new Paragon board, with a new Untamed board for companions to gain a ton of companion damage, and Headhunter glyph on my starting board, we were ready to clear Torment 2. When I started Pit 35 to unlock Torment 2, I was Paragon level 56 with roughly 80 Paragon points. In total, I spent only an hour going from Torment 1 to Torment 2. Once we broke into Torment 2, we were able to use the same level of strength to reach Pit 40. But that is where the nightmare began. Again, we lacked resistances and damage to go any further. To solve my damage problems in Torment 2, I started off by trying to find an ancestral weapon. I never did get an ancestral two-hander in Torment 2, but I found this beauty with willpower, max life, and a few damage rolls, and I even masterworked it a bit for fun. While clearing Beast in the Ice to search for an ancestral weapon, I ended up finding the Storm's Companion Pants with 7 ranks of wolves for like 40% more damage, and making the skill into a small AoE. I also replaced my helm with one that had 750 item power and plus 3 wolves, which added roughly 20% more damage. At some point while experimenting, I tried to use Wild Bolt Aspect and Fists of Fate to boost my average damage, but it ended up making my character's performance wildly inconsistent, so I had to switch them out. Now, regarding survivability, I replaced my chest armor for one that had 750 item power that had the same rolls but with max life and resistance tempering on it. My Penitent Greaves got subbed out for plain boots that had max life, but then I found Rakanoth's Wake at Infernal Hordes to solve my res problem. Then I added sapphires to my gear for willpower to get more damage and royal gems on my jewelry for more resistances. By now, we had reached Paragon 127 with roughly 150 Paragon points, so we used the starting board with Headhunter glyph, the Untamed board with Exploit glyph, and the Heightened Malice board with Keeper glyph. Just to recap, here I show my gear at this point in my character's journey. Plenty of 750s and a few good uniques, with only my weapon having a bit of masterworking. With all that, we took on Pit 50 to unlock Torment 3. And as you can see, we were successful. This time, it took us 8 hours going from Torment 2 to Torment 3. And here we are. Torment 3 to Torment 4. Torment really lived up to its name here because it took me a grand total of about 18 hours to pull it off. When I first got into Torment 3, I actually attempted tormented bosses to try and get some ancestral items, but I only managed to successfully clear Varshan once for an ancestral Iridas that I didn't need, and I couldn't even take on Zir, at least not until I got stronger. So what did we need here? Well, we still needed an ancestral weapon, aspects such as Moonrage, upgrades to our Paragon, and masterworking. I found an ancestral polearm from Turning in Whispers, then I tempered damage and wolves onto it. This adjustment alone from a 750 item power weapon to the ancestral 800 item power weapon was roughly a 20% boost to my overall damage. Now as for Moonrage aspect, it turns out I found Moonrage back in Torment 3, but I have no idea when that happened. I imprinted it immediately when I realized I had it, which gave us 3 additional wolves to boost our skill damage and the bonus from Shepherd's aspect too. I took time to level my glyphs up to 45, which gave us 5 radius glyphs and the legendary bonus from each of them. And as for masterworking, we spammed Nightmare Dungeons and Infernal Hordes to upgrade all of our equipment. By the time we pushed for Torment 4, our gear was masterworked where we had 8 ranks on my helm, pants, and boots, but 4 ranks on everything else. With a good ancestral weapon, every required aspect for my build except for Spirit Bond, and with multiplicative damage bonuses from 4 glyphs, those being Headhunter, Exploit, Keeper, and Earth and Sky, I broke through Pit 55. For Pit 60, we needed to take things one step further and replace several items with greater affix ancestral legendaries and some uniques. We also got 2 ranks for Call of the Wild on our amulet to gain 24% more damage. But the biggest damage boost of all came from the legendary node Thunderstruck, which, after tempering damage to close and damage to distant on my gear, got me an extra 60% multiplicative damage increase. Huge boost. Finally, we had the big jump from Pit 60 to 65, and boy was that a journey. But the 2 biggest contributors to being able to clear Pit 65 were 2 ancestral uniques. A Storm's Companion I picked up from Beast in the Ice, and a Rakanoth's Wake, which I think I got from Infernal Hordes. Either way, my Storm's Companion came with damage reduction from close enemies as a greater affix, and then I did 8 ranks of masterworking, which got this to almost 36% DR from close, and plus wolves. And then I barely cleared it at Paragon level 180, but oddly enough couldn't do it a second time until a bit later. In summary, my solo run with the Companion Druid had me spending 8 hours on Penitent difficulty, 1 hour on Torment 1, 8 hours on Torment 2, and 18 hours on Torment 3, for a final count of 35 hours to reach Torment 4. At long last, we finally made it to Torment 4. From here, there is still so much room for our character to grow and push for higher pits. Believe it or not, after over 30 hours of gameplay on this character, I have yet to find the Spirit Bond aspect to make my wolves immortal, so they still struggle to survive, which slows me down a lot. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our video. Just as a friendly reminder, you can turn in your season journey reward caches once per account for valuable stuff like mats and ancestral items. So you can use that to make your life easier if you haven't done so already. I chose not to because, again, I wanted to torment myself, since I'm a sucker for punishment. So how much further can this build go? Who knows? Right now, I think that while the Companion Druid clearly won't come close to Spirit-born levels of Broken this season, I believe I can reach at least Pit 100. This would be if I actually have all of the correct items, including Mythics, Masterwork everything, level up my glyphs, and, of course, use runes and mercenaries from Vessel of Hatred. With any luck, could endgame content like Dark Citadel or Beyond Pit 100 be possible? I believe so, but only time will tell. If you enjoyed the video, a like, comment, or subscribe is always appreciated, but otherwise, that's all from me. Thanks everyone for watching, and venture out.